Assalamu alaikum everyone. I hope all of you are doing well. So in this video, I will be discussing about new criticism as a literary theory. So let's start. So new criticism started in 1940s and it was ended in 1960s. It is a literary movement which once again relate to literary theory. It emerged as a reaction to biographical, historical criticism which focuses mainly on material which is not in the text. This movement came a little after Russian formalism. It focuses on text and it considered text being a complete work of art and an example to validate our interpretation is the source to analyze and seek meanings. It avoids author's intention means intentional fallacy and reader's response means affective fallacy. It also did the close reading of the text as well. It is an Anglo-American counterpart of the Russian formalism, and major thinkers in this field were John Crowe Ransom, Alan Tate, Robert Penn Warren, Clean Brooks, William Empson, I.A. Richards, etc. It is not exactly same literary movement to Russian formalism, but in some way it is different. So some major works include given by the John Crowe Ransom, I.A. Richards and T.S. Eliot. John Crowe Ransom's book The New Criticism, which was written in 1941, laid the foundation of this school of thought. I.A. Richards' book Practical Criticism and the Meaning of Meaning explained on the idea of empirical scientific approach based on analytics that is objective and fact-based. T.S. Eliot's two famous essays, Hamlet and His Problem and Tradition and Individual Talent, introducing objective correlative and the insistence on the fact that poetry must be impersonal, laid some ground rules for new criticism. So what is objective correlevant, which was given by T.S. Eliot? Objective correlevant is something such as a situation or chain of events that symbolizes or objectifies a particular emotion and that may be used in creative writing to evoke desired emotional response in the reader. T.S. Eliot used this term. There must be a positive connection between the emotion the poet is trying to express and the object, image or situation in the poem that helps to convey that emotion to the reader. Eliot thus determined that Shakespeare's play Hamlet was an artistic failure. Eliot felt that Shakespeare was unable to provoke the audience to feel as Prince Hamlet. So there is an artistic failure. Eliot considered Hamlet as an artistic failure in Hamlet and His Problem. So there are some operational devices of new criticism as well. The first one is ambiguity. Ambiguity is something when something is not clear, when a word, image or events generate two or more meaning. For example, Jonah Belvin from Sleepless in Seattle said that, "Thanks for dinner, I have never seen potatoes cooked like that before." It may be it states is good or bad. The second one is paradox. Paradox arises out of false assumption leading to inconsistencies between observed and expected behavior. For example, dialogue said by the grandmother to grandchild like, "Someday you will be old enough to start reading fairy tales again." So there is a paradox. So irony is the word used in a way that their intended meaning is different from their actual meaning. For example, verbal, situational and dramatic irony. And situational irony, for example, in O. Henry, Gift of Magi, the gifts are of no use. So there is an irony. The fourth one is tension. A state of emotional stress, strains and suspense in the story or an event is an element which invokes emotions such as worry, fear, stress, anxiety and the like in the reader and the character itself. It is like an electric current in the word of Bill Johnson. So there are certain questions that is very important in new criticism, and that how to interpret the text. The first question is, who is speaking in the text? So narrator is speaking who told the whole story. Either it would be first person, second or third person. Third person is considered as more authentic person. And the second question is, who is being spoken to? So it is not necessary that it will always be a reader. So it is not compulsory. The third question is, who is the addressees? So addressee is the audience, as we all know. The fourth question is, who is the implied reader of the text? So implied reader, instead of reader, an audience who listen. Implied reader is the one the audience who listens. Now the fifth question is, what is the setting? Setting is the place on which all the events are performed. That is called setting. So there are certain ideas of new criticism as well. The first one is that new critics sometimes warranted the discussion of psychological, cultural, biographical, political elements because sometimes they are integrated or integral part of either the plot or the characterization. They are somewhat flexible. The second one is, unlike Russian formalism, the critics believed that both form and contents are important. In Russian formalism, they believed only on the forms. So the third one is, they insisted on intrinsic values. Intrinsic values are basically present inside the text, drama, novel, or poetry of a work of art, focusing on the individual work as an independent unit of meaning. The fourth one is that they emphasized upon close reading, particularly of poetry, to discover how a work of literature functioned as a self-contained, self-referential aesthetic object. The fifth one is that it consists of formal elements such as rhyme, meter, setting, characterization, and plot were used to identify the theme of the text. In addition to the theme, the new critics also looked for paradox, ambiguity, irony, and tension to help establish the single best and most unified interpretation of the text. The sixth one is that text is considered as autonomous, independent, giving meaning of its own, and closed, meaning thereby that everything needed to interpret it inside it. Now there are some common grounds between Russian formalism and new criticism, that both of the school of thoughts resorts to a deep scientific study of the text, that both basically talk about text. The second one is that both of the school cut off text from the history, biography, and social context. The third one is that they both considered literature on its own terms. Instead of focusing on political, cultural, or historical externalities, they must focus on the literary devices and craft of the author, and a critical focus on poetry. Now the criticism on the new criticism is basically given by Terence Hawkes, who belonged to a reader response theory, and he criticizes that new criticism considers the subject and the object stable and independent form, whereas he believed that the reader critic must create the finished work by their reading of it and not to act as an inert consumer of a ready-made product. And in answer to this basically criticism, Kleinbrook answered or responded that new critic put more focus on the text than the author, and so the reader, yet no one ignores the fact that it is the reader who realizes any piece of literature. So reader response theory is worth studying. He further added that if each and every reader is giving importance, then the meaning and valuation of the literary work may get reduced to a reader's psychology and taste of the history, thus it losing its own aesthetic value. And he responded to Terence Hawkes that if we give more importance to the reader, that they would decide the value of the text. Some readers are sophisticated or educated, then literary work may get reduced and text lost its aesthetic value. So Terence Hawkes basically criticizes new criticism, that they never give more importance to the reader's validation, while Kleinbrook basically answered to him that we cannot spend a lot of time to the reader's answer or their realization or validation, because in this way text lost its essence. So that's all from my side. If you have any queries, you can ask me in the comment section. Please like, subscribe, and share my channel. Thank you for watching.